It had been 5 years since my divorce. I was now 43, and every one of those years had passed in quiet evenings and empty nights. The silence had become a companion, wrapping around me like a familiar blanket. Some days I welcomed it, other days it felt like a weight I could never put down. Before we begin, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video if you enjoy heartfelt stories like this one. That Tuesday evening, however, wasn't like the others. It would stay with me in ways I didn't expect. I had gone to bed early, fatigue clinging to my bones. As I lay there, the stillness of the house seemed deeper than usual. No television hum, no street sounds, just the soft hush of night pressing against the windows.
But that peace didn't last.
A gentle knock broke through the silence. I opened my eyes, the sound startling in its suddenness. "Daniel?" I called out softly. A pause. Then, just above a whisper, "Mom?" I sat up quickly, concern prickling through me. The door creaked open, and my son stepped into the room. Even in the dim light, I could see the unease on his face. Dressed in loose pajama pants and a t-shirt, he looked every bit the young man he had grown into, 22 now, no longer the little boy who used to sneak into my bed after nightmares. "I can't sleep," he said quietly, his eyes fixed on the floor. "Come here," I murmured, patting the bed beside me. He hesitated for a second, then slowly walked over and slipped under the blanket. The bed shifted under his weight. We lay side by side, just a few inches apart. His presence brought a warmth to the room I hadn't felt in a long time. I tried not to look at him, but it was impossible not to notice how much he'd changed. His face was more defined, his shoulders broader, his frame that of a grown man. I felt an odd wave of discomfort, and something else I couldn't name. "Mom," he whispered, turning toward me, "sometimes I feel so alone in this house." His voice carried a fragility that tugged at my chest. I didn't know what to say. Words felt too small for the moment. Instead, I reached out and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Without hesitation, he turned and wrapped his arms around me in a tight embrace. I was surprised by the strength of it, how firmly he held me, how closely he pressed against me. His face rested near my neck, his breath warm and steady. I could feel his heartbeat, and to my own surprise, I found myself holding him back just as tightly. A strange flutter stirred inside me, unfamiliar and confusing. I told myself it was the mother in me responding to his pain, but even then, something felt different. "Sometimes it's just too much," he whispered. "I'm here," I said softly, brushing my hand across his back. "I'm always here." But inside, I wasn't calm. My heart was beating fast, and I didn't understand why. His hug had lasted longer than expected. His warmth had settled too deeply into my skin. And even though everything about the moment seemed innocent, there was a closeness that made me question why I was feeling so stirred. Eventually, his breathing slowed. He had drifted into sleep, still holding on to me. I lay there, eyes wide open, unable to rest. My mind was spinning. What just happened? I told myself it was just comfort between a mother and son. That maybe I was just feeling lonely, tired, vulnerable. But still, something about Daniel's hug lingered in my thoughts long after he had fallen asleep. When morning came, I gently slipped out of bed, careful not to wake him. The sunlight peeked through the curtains and cast a soft glow on his face. For a moment, I stood there, watching him. His expression was peaceful, innocent even. But I felt tangled up inside. I walked to the kitchen, hoping to clear my head. I needed to feel normal again, even if just by preparing breakfast. I gathered ingredients for pancakes and began mixing them in a bowl. The rhythmic movements helped calm the storm inside me. Then I heard the creak of the floorboards behind me. Daniel stood at the doorway, his hair tousled, eyes still heavy with sleep. "Morning," he said. His voice was quiet, yet it carried a strange caution. "Morning, hon," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. I flipped a pancake on the skillet, pretending everything was fine. But I could feel his gaze, steadily watching me. Not with the usual casual glances, but with an attentiveness that made me uneasy. Every small movement I made, his eyes followed. I tried not to look directly at him, but I knew he was studying me, trying to read something in my posture, my expressions. When I turned around with a plate of pancakes, our eyes met briefly. In that moment, it felt as if he wanted to say something, something unspoken pressing at the edge of his thoughts. But instead, he just took the plate and sat down. Throughout breakfast, he didn't look at me directly again. But each time I moved, I could sense his gaze returning to me. It wasn't intrusive, but it wasn't quite right either. Like he was trying to understand something or waiting for me to acknowledge it first. Daniel had always been warm and cheerful, laid back with me. But now there was a tension I couldn't ignore. A shift in how he looked at me. Like some silent understanding was taking root between us, even though neither of us dared to speak it aloud. The day passed slowly, filled with uneasy silences and glances that lingered a bit too long. I tried to bury myself in tasks, cleaning, organizing, folding laundry, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face from the night before. His embrace. His breath near my neck. My own confusion. That night, sleep came slowly. I tossed and turned, my body tense, my thoughts scattered. Each time I drifted off, I would wake again, feeling like something was about to happen. And then, sometime after midnight, I heard it again, a soft noise. The door creaked gently. My heart raced. I opened my eyes and saw the outline of Daniel standing in the doorway. He stepped into the room without speaking. His presence was calm, but his expression was different, more certain than the night before. He took a step closer. Moonlight from the window lit up one side of his face, and I could see the emotion in his eyes. My breath caught in my throat. Daniel? He didn't say anything. Instead, he walked over and sat on the edge of the bed. I sat up, my heart thudding in my chest. Then, without warning, he leaned in and pressed a soft kiss on my lips. Time froze. I couldn't move. It was gentle, brief, and yet everything inside me turned upside down. I pulled back, breathless. No, we can't. He looked at me, his face unreadable. There was something tender in his eyes, but also disappointment.
He didn't speak. He just sat there.
Daniel, I said, my voice shaking. This isn't right. You're my son. He stood up slightly, like he might walk away. But then he leaned in again and kissed my forehead, longer this time. Then his hand found mine, warm and steady. The silence between us was thick. And before I could gather my thoughts, his arms were around me again, holding me, comforting me, but also anchoring me. My mind screamed that this was too close, too blurred. But my body didn't move away. I closed my eyes. Everything was tangled. My feelings, my fear, my years of loneliness, colliding with the sudden presence of affection, attention, closeness. That night, I didn't stop him. I didn't say no again. When morning came, Daniel was gone from my room. I lay still for a long time, the sheets pulled up to my chin, staring at the ceiling. It felt like everything had changed. I got up slowly, my limbs heavy, my chest hollow. I didn't know where Daniel was. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel. Was it confusion? Shame? Longing? All of them? I left the house without speaking. I needed air. I needed space. I wandered the quiet streets for hours, trying to understand what had happened, what it meant. Was I still seeing Daniel as a child? Or had I allowed myself to see him as someone else last night? Had the years of silence and solitude weakened the lines I should have never crossed?
I didn't know.
But I did know one thing. Nothing about that night felt forgettable. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't just comfort. It was real. And now I had to live with that truth. As I stood in the cool morning air, I wrapped my coat tightly around myself. I wasn't sure what to say, or what would happen next. But inside, something was breaking. Something I couldn't put back together. And I wasn't sure I wanted to.